But the people who are contributing significantly to the emissions have moved very rapidly, swiftly to.
There is an ongoing debate that Africa and indeed Nigeria should be allowed to develop with its fossil fuel as much as the developed world has done before transiting to renewable energy because it emits only about 4% of the global greenhouse gas emission. But the question is, since other big polluters are already transiting to renewable energy, who will be patronizing the fossil fuel of African countries? And will we not be left with stranded assets when the whole world has moved on? We engaged the sponsor of the climate change bill at the National Assembly, Honorable Sam Onugbe, on these and other sundry issues regarding climate change in a media chat. Hear him.
But I'm not holding brief for the developed world. But I'm going to come back and ask you a question. You are a low emitter, less than 4%. And you have about 40% of the raw materials required for renewable energy in the world. And despite the fact that you're a low emitter, then you are feeling the brunt. But the people who are contributing significantly to the emissions have moved very rapidly, swiftly towards transition. You hear about how my colleague on the board, the Northeast Development Board, went on a visit on a tour of China, as we are all thinking on how to go electric vehicles and all that. And he was shocked to see some factories. He went to 15 provinces. He was shocked to see some factories where they produce 1,000 vehicles, electric vehicles in a day. The same thing with Keke Napep, some 800. Different factories. Today, the Chinese have moved ahead of everyone. Mind you, they are one of the greatest emitters. They moved ahead of everyone in the production of electric vehicles and in creating centers, charging points, and things like that. What does that tell you? They are moving. If you check the major markets for African crude oil and the rest of those things we are producing, those markets, the major regions and markets are in China, the United States, Europe, India, and the rest of them. So when a country like India is also speeding away, if you go and do your study, the United States is also walking away. Who then, if you fail to begin the process of, transiting now, who then do you think would be your market or buyers in the next few years? Do not forget, our president has made a commitment that we are going to transit to net zero. The former president, by 2060. That's what is that. That's a presidential declaration. But the act actually says we're working to transit between 2050 and 2070. That's the provision of the act on climate change. So we are supposed to begin to work because the signs are clear that if we fail to begin the process of transiting, we'll be left behind. We'll be left with stranded assets. The traditional rulers, just like councillors and local politicians, are in touch with the people. So they have a role to play. It is the role of awareness. It's the role of them, getting their people together to say, this is where we are going. It is also the role of the traditional rulers discouraging their people, maybe beginning with themselves, from selling off their forests, allowing people to pay them pittance and then fell trees that were planted donkey years before they themselves were born. So if they show example, if they lead by example and encourage their subjects to know that it is in our interests, climate change contributes to pollution that kills 7 million people annually. And that is about 5 deaths per second. Now, what does that mean? In the communities, we need to create this awareness that even the traditional ways of preparing food, frying garri, which some of us used to fry in the village, where you inhale so much smoke, that there is problem with that. if we create the awareness, if we start having clean cooking, making it available, we have over 970 million people within Africa who do not have access to clean cooking. We have over 600 million people who do not have access to electricity. Out of that, Nigeria contributes about 90 million people. So we have to create the awareness. We also have to work towards renewable energy so that people can access clean cooking either through the kind of facilities that are provided. People can also access electricity without anybody being in danger. So the traditional ruler, that's why we made a law in that way. The president sits right there on the council whenever a meeting is held. If it's not there, his vice president, the ministers, and then down to Minister of Women Affairs. But apart from her nomination, then the women also make their own nominations, the youth, disabled. So all hands must be on deck.